Morning light through the window pane, coffee steaming, no rush, no lane. World's been shouting all night long. I pour a cup, let the silence talk. I didn't leave angry, didn't storm the door. I just stepped sideways away from the roar. Pull up a chair, let the clock unwind. This isn't breaking news, it's breaking the grind. They sell fear by the hour, package rage by the pound. Every screen's got an opinion, every voice trying to sound like they know what's coming, like they've cracked the code. But the loudest ones panic when you step off the road. I've seen cycles repeat, watched them rise, watched them fall. Empires shouting forever right before they stall. So I sip and I watch, let the headlines fight. Truth don't need a megaphone, it waits out the night. They want speed, they want fire, they want sides, they want lines, they want heroes and villains every damn time. But life ain't a headline, ain't red versus blue. It's quiet decisions people never review. Yeah, yeah, they want me. Loud? Nah, freedom's calm. It's knowing when to walk while the others all run. I'm not late to the party, I just left it early. Seen how it ends, same mess, same worry. Take a breath, let the cup cool down. The world will keep spinning without your sound. We'll be right here when the dust don't fly. Coffee on the table, morning in the sky. This is coffee time, Liz. No need to run. We'll talk again when the day's begun. Sunlight spills through the cafe door. Mic goes live like it's done before. 9 years deep in these mountain towns, we brew the truth, not just sit around. I came for a visit, then stayed for the view. But the soul of this place, it just pulls you through. Mornings in Finlandia, nights in Salento. Life don't move fast, but man, it's full tempo. This ain't a pitch, it's real as it gets. From lost bags to love and bureaucratic regrets. No script here, just the sound of real lives told live every week under Colombian skies. It's coffee time lived from the heart of Quindío, where the screen fades out and the real stories flow from expats who landed and locals who guide. We laugh, we vent, we cry, we ride. It's not about views, it's about the vibe. Just raw conversation, live and alive. Got folks tuning in from every time zone, asking what's it like to make this place your own. It's mango trees, it's rent debates, it's finding peace past the clickbait gates. Some days we talk visas, some days we just breathe and sip dark roast while the valley grieves through mudslides, marches, markets, and mess. We show up with stories, no more, no less. It's coffee time lived, not just a name on a screen. It's 9 years of mornings and everything between. No hype, just heart and a decent brew. A place for the honest, the warm, the true. Not selling dreams, just sharing the ride from right here in Quindío live. Where the air stands still. So bring your mug, your doubts, your days. We'll light 'em up in soft cafe rays. It's not a podcast, it's a porch-like glow. It's home and a headline, a yes and a no. It's coffee time, live. Come as you are, from my table in Colombia to wherever you are.
Good morning and welcome back to the channel, Grand Colombian. Welcome to another Coffee Time Live in Armenia, Candillo, Colombia. And I don't think you can hear it, but there is a tremendous noise outside my building that's been there for over an hour, and I'll talk about it in a bit. Horns blowing and sirens going off, and we're, I think, an hour and 15 minutes into it. Anyway, what are we going to talk about? Well, I'm going to tell you the story about how I became undead. I can finish up the story from last week about the bank having me recorded as dead, therefore didn't want to give me my direct deposit. So I'll tell that story. Got some news, a little bit about the World Cup coming up related to it. As a matter of fact, the main topic, it kind of circles around that. And a little bit about the election, but not much. But the World Cup, or actually the main topic circles around that a bit too. And instead of coffee, we're going to try the ginger tea and honey. That was obvious to me once it was suggested. I have ginger tea and honey if I ever get sick, which isn't, believe it or not, I don't get sick very often. I may be perpetually sick from one thing or another, chronic illness, but when it comes to getting the flu or a cold or something like that, not a whole lot. Okay, Rigo found the hard drive cable. Oh my God. Oh my God. Also an extra HD hard drive. That's fantastic. If I have so little room left, I actually had to go through again recently to try to compress and get more space. As a matter of fact, before I had to cancel the subscription, I got Claude to go through all my hard drives and look for any duplications or basically just clean everything up. It took about an hour and a half. And it didn't find me that much room because I'd already been doing it, but it did find some that I hadn't located, so that's always good. The Rumble bot, Text Boy 51, welcome. Thank you for being here. Tommy, good morning. How are you? Must be Cepeda parade? No, hardly. Surprised all the noise, but very short motorcade, mostly young kids. No, the vast majority of people in Candillo are so far away from Petro and Cepeda, it's crazy. If the vote took place only in Candillo, you'd probably have 95% for what's his name there, Aprija, the Tiger, El Tigre. It would be for him. The rallies recently have been insane here. Just absolutely huge. And that's what's been going on out here. It's finally quieted. I think they finally got the traffic, made them move. A whole bunch of cops showed up. They were just basically camped out. Well, let me show you. Let me show you what's been going on for the last hour or so from my balcony. This was when it started. Then we went to this. Not long after. still have cars moving. So this was probably an hour or so ago. And then I took this one just before I started the video. Man, it's loud. It's been loud here. I was a little worried. It's like no, I have this is a pretty good microphone, and I have it dialed in so that there shouldn't be any ambient noise. Only what goes directly into it from me. And in the past, that's proved pretty true. I'll hear like one time there was a crazy motorcycle race, unsanctioned, of course, outside. I mean, usually it's not that noisy here, but motorcycles without mufflers doing a drag racing right outside here. The noise was, I mean, it was bad. And you guys never heard it. I couldn't even focus to talk. It was so loud. But that's good microphone. Good boy. Good boy. All right. What else we got? Thanks for the follow. I said that. Rigo, last night, noisy parade, but very short motorcade. Looking out towards El Portal, it looks more like football activity. No, that's it. It's not. This is that will be coming. 17th, couple days. But El Tigre, wisely, he's actually been running a brilliant campaign. I've been watching. He has, I think, the most effective campaign, which is why he's gone leaps and bounds ahead of the other guy. Actually, even before the initial election, I mean, he just sprinted because he's got kind of like the Spencer Pratt guy in L.A. He's got a tremendous social media, AI video, all kinds of stuff going on out there. But he's also, because if you don't know, Colombia's in the World Cup, first time in 8 years. And so Colombia is about as crazy as any country for soccer, football. And he's adopted, he's wearing the yellow T-shirt to all his events recently. And he's kind of adopted the theme of that, which is smart. I mean, if you're running for something, why not wrap yourself around something that everybody loves? And his entire campaign's been very effective. And what you see is you'll see all those yellow football shirts out there, but it's all this continuous rally. He called nationally for a caravan for freedom, or I forget what it was, but he called for this, grassroots. Everybody go out before the election, do this caravan thing, and here for that thing to run as long as it did this morning is pretty strong for a place like Armenia. But then if you look at the rallies just in the last 2 weeks, there's been 2 of them that I'm aware of down in El Centro. And Plaza Bolivar was packed to the point where it was spilling down into the other streets. I mean, it was just a mob. I saw one aerial shot of it, and it was just, I've never seen that before. I've seen lots of rallies that have taken place, popular ones, but nothing to the extent of what that was. But that's not surprising because Condillo is a very conservative area. And whatever conservative person is going to run in whatever election, it's almost a guaranteed set of votes here. 50 at 50. Yo, can't stay. Text me this week when you can. Okay. Okay. All right. So let's first I got to tell you, last week I was telling you that I could not get my direct deposit. It was due to me on the 3rd, June 3rd, and it didn't show up. And I'm not going to go through all the detail, waited a day or two because who knows. And then I started hunting and searching, and then I haven't been able to leave the house because of some complications. But I kind of prepared myself a day ahead of time and forced myself to go down to the bank, which turned out pretty good this time. Anyway, so I go down to the bank and they tell me after a few hours, they finally came to the conclusion that I was dead. Well, obviously, I wasn't dead. But they said I got to go to the civil registry and advise them. So I go to the civil registry Monday. I get to the civil registry. Now I'm into the news story. I get to the civil registry Monday early, and I'm standing there, and there's nobody there. And I go, oh, great, I'll be first in line. Bob Sin, Colombia, good morning. Thank you. And everybody else watching, please chime in. Just say hello. Ideally, hello and where you are. So I get there Monday, and a security guard comes out, very friendly guy, and he asked me what's going on. And I told him, and he wasn't quite sure. So I came prepared because when you're dealing with something bureaucratic, you want to be clear. So I already had it typed up. I error checked it and made sure the punctuation, because I know some Spanish. And so, I do the translation, then you got to make sure the translation's accurate. So I did all that and I had it saved. So I showed him, oh, yeah. So whatever confused him, he got it. And he said, I couldn't get my certificate until he kept going, tomorrow, mañana, tomorrow. And he said, I don't know what the arching arm was for, but I get it. And so, but I said, but why? And there were a few people walking around inside there, big glass door. I said, why? And he didn't say. And I asked him a few times. And finally he said, festivo. It was a holiday. I had no idea. And stupid of me. There's so many holidays here. I should have asked AI, is there a holiday today? National, local, whatever. So I'll go back tomorrow. So I leave. Now, keep in mind, I had to take a taxi to the bank and then back home. Then I took a taxi to the civil registry and back home. Now I got to go Tuesday. And so I get up early, I shower, I'm all set to go. I prepared myself again, deleted one of my medications till I got back home. And there's a couple things. I just quickly, so you understand. One is severe case of diarrhea over medication I get. It's embarrassing. And if I'm out and I can't get the accidents could happen. I can't do that. But if I don't take the medication, it's okay. But I have to take the medication. So, it's like, so I juggled it. And the other is falling down. And the last time I'd been out, I fell, hurt myself pretty good, very embarrassing. And so those are my concerns. Well, I didn't fall down. So I get there Tuesday morning and the security guy comes over. He's all smiles and he welcomes me right in. There was only one person ahead of me. He actually put me in a line where I would only just be behind one person. So it's very cool. So I get up to the line. And rather than go through I show them my thing that I'd prepared. And because it's a line, I don't want to hold people up. So I just showed them. And they said, oh, just a minute. Go check with somebody, come back. Can I see your cedula? Oh, yeah. So it was already sitting there. I already had it on the counter and they just apparently didn't notice. So they took it. They're looking at my cedula, goes away, comes back. Now, I was told that the certificate was going to cost me money. So they said, you're in the wrong place. Well, this is where the bank told me to come. And I checked with AI, and it showed me the government website. So I asked AI, I went to the website, the bank told me, they all said, go there. And they said, well, no, you got to go to Migration. So take a taxi back home and go the next morning to Migration. So I back up. I'm at the registry and I start walking to Migration. And for whatever reason, I look on Google Map because I couldn't remember, am I like 6 blocks or 7 blocks from it? I couldn't remember which one. I've been there a bunch of times, but I'm trying to place it in my mind. So I look on Google Map, fortunately, and it's not there. It was always there. Well, it's not there anymore. Google Maps says it's not there. So then I look on some government thing and it says, oh, yeah, it's there. So I go back and I'm shrinking down Google Maps and I enter it in. And when I enter it in, it tells me it's up north in a place that's never been. It's in La Castellana. I'm really confused now. What should I do? I'm not going to walk all the way down there because I have an issue. I mean, it's not great that I'm out doing this. It's something I was told not to do until I'm at the point where I'm cleared to do it. So that's when I got in the taxi and I go back home. So I come back home and I'm trying to figure it out. So I'm hunting all the sources to try to figure out what I'm doing, what should I do. And everything tells me that there's a new Migration office, not where it used to be up north, but in La Castellana. Beautiful area, upscale, wealthy, residential area. So I said, okay. So I'm beat from the day. It doesn't take much. So the next day I get up, taxi to the Migration office. So I get there and there's a little line, but the guard comes right out directly to me. What do you need? And I told him in Spanish, and because he surprised me, so I didn't have it ready on my phone. So I told him. He goes, okay, just a minute. He goes back in. I wait maybe 5 minutes or so. I take a picture of this house that's for rent across the street. It's got a phone number on it. I put it in the Facebook page if you're interested. Beautiful place. The area is probably the best in town. So anyway, guy comes out, very nice, very friendly. And he asked me, and I repeated. I told him what was going on. And I showed him my cedula, my ID card. Ginger burns a little, but that's a good burn. So he says, okay, wait a minute. So he goes back in around the corner again. So he comes back out another 5 minutes or so. I mean, I think I was only there total maybe 15 minutes. And he invites me in. Come on in. He leads me over to the reception area, the lounge area, where they have the chairs lined up as you wait in line. So he has me sit down. He then explains to me in Spanish that apparently what happened, because I have a 6-digit cedula number and Colombians have these big long numbers, 6-digit because, I was here some years ago. He says, apparently what happened is that a Colombian who was very old and had a number, it was similar to mine, had died and somebody had transposed the numbers. So he had a very rare 6-digit, because most of them already died off, a 6-digit ID number. It would have been CC in the number instead of CE in the number. But either somehow they confused him with me and pronounced me dead. And I didn't know it, but my cedula had been canceled. So I said, so what do we do? He said, well, it's all done. I took care of it. He hands me a piece of paper. Now, it was just somebody had said, the bank, I think, had said they need the original. And this was just off a printer. And I said, well, is there going to be any kind of notary or what? And he showed me that there's a registration number on the bottom of the page. And he says, that's all they need. So, okay. So I get another taxi and I go to the bank. I go in the bank, I wait and wait and wait and wait. And I get in there and it was somebody different from the other day. But fortunately, they kept pretty good notes in the system. And I told them what's going on. And she's typing away and she's taking my fingerprint and taking my signature, and something messed up and had to do it again. And so we go through all this stuff. And finally she says, okay, we're all set. And so I said, so I'm going to have my direct deposit now? 3 days. 3 days. My rent, it keeps getting a penalty, an escalating penalty. And I've got other bills that are due. And the exchange rate it keeps taking a nosedive. And so that's of concern. Says, well, it's 3 days. It won't be in the system. It won't get cleared for 3 days. Nothing she can do about it. Okay. So I wait Wednesday. I'm checking 2-3 times a day. Maybe it'll come early. No, Thursday. I'm checking. No, Friday. Here we are, Friday. Going to get my rent paid. Yeah, I got penalties, but at least it's going to get paid. First time in 9 years that I was ever late on rent. So comes Friday, 9 o'clock, which is when it always hits, no direct deposit. So I go into the system. I learned where to look for it, and I can see it's still hung up there, but it's not going into my account. 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. I mean, I'm kind of panicked because is this going to happen? I have no money. I used everything up on taxis. I spent almost $200,000 on taxis running around. So, and I'm at the bank. I about enough to get home. So, what am I going to do? Wait and wait and wait. I give up around 4 o'clock because pretty much everything closes at 4 o'clock. At 5:30, I get some message of some. It didn't say a direct deposit hit, but I got some message. So I go in and look at, and boom, there it was. Much less than it would have been on June 3rd. So all in all, this thing has cost me, what was it, 740,000 pesos with all the taxis and the penalties and everything. That's a couple $100. That's significant for me in my life. That's significant. I've already had to cancel more subscriptions to this channel. I'm trying to juggle them because I simply won't have the money when they come due again. So anyway, if it ever happens to you, just go right to immigration and get a certificate and then go back to the bank. Or if it's your problem with your cedula, just go to immigration, they'll take care of it. I went prepared. I had stuff from Dion, the tax people. It's like IRS. I had my passport with me. I mean, I came prepared to prove who I was. But they didn't even ask for it. He just went off he looked it up in the cedula, and apparently there was enough information there to tell him what happened. Like, I'm not the 110-year-old Colombian. I'm obviously the gringo who matches the ID. So it was pretty good. The upside was the people at the registry and the people at migration, where you would expect the bureaucracy to be frustrating, were all very, very, very nice. Very nice. I mean, I they made it as painful as it wasn't unpleasant, if that makes any sense. Why did I say I hate when people say if that makes any sense? Obviously it makes sense. That's why I said it. And no way to get reimbursed for someone else's mistake. No, of course not. I mean, Colombia is not going to part with any money. Would the U.S. say, "Oh, here we screwed up. Here, take some money. Here, make up for it"? No, no, they don't work that way. All right, let's look at the headlines and we'll get to the main topic. I know that was a bit of a long story, but I think it's important because through the course of this, I found out that it's not unusual. This happens. So you should know. Exact thing happened to me. Really? I changed EPS and the one I was transferring listed me as dead. A dead citizen years ago had my cedula. Took 6 months to straighten it out. I guess I shouldn't complain about the 3 days then, right? I will say their computer systems seem to improve every year. The interconnectivity of these things, which is, the downside was that's how the bank monitors these things. Bank's AI throughout the day, every day, automatically monitors those kinds of lists. Mr. Zell, how are you? Pray that you never end up on the master Social Security deceased registry. Takes years to prove you were alive. I got information about some of those horror stories, to be honest with you. But I also read that in the last year or two, the way it's handled was greatly improved. And I have to say that as frustrating as it was for me to go through this, because it's affecting me personally. I mean, I got no money. I got bills to pay. What am I going to do here? You know, that's a lot of pressure. I had to go out and do all this running around when I shouldn't have been leaving the house. All of that was like a miniature nightmare for me. Fortunately, the people made it better for me. I even had nice taxi drivers, but I found that it was actually pretty efficient. Had I gone to migration the first time, went from the bank to, well, I would have had to go the next day. But as I explained, you saw how quick that was. And what I read was they used to do fingerprints and you'd used to have to proof things out. Could be DNA, could be a whole range of things that they required you to go through. But in this case, everything is digitalized. They've got my fingerprints. It's on the cedula, and they verified it. They verified it just based on that. So I don't know what took 6 months to a year or two in the past. I'm thinking no longer. Now, the Master Social Security Deceased Register, that's actually, what are you talking about, the U.S. one? Now, that's different. The U.S. Social Security, that can be a nightmare, but typically it's not. Because Robert, a friend of mine, worked there, retired from there recently, worked there forever, and we've talked about it in the past. And it's something that they can generally get cleared up pretty quick, at least these days. U.S., yeah. U.S. So here, it took what I told you. And part of that was I went to the wrong place. No, I got sent to the wrong place. You only go to the civil registry if you're a Colombian citizen. But if you have any kind of visa, then you go right to migration. So now a different office might put you through a few more hoops. They said that what worst case is they take a full set of fingerprints and ship them off to Bogota and wait for a response. Now, in the past, that could take weeks, but everything is digital. So even if he had done that, it would have just been a matter of minutes. So, okay, thanks. I appreciate the comments, you guys. And I got a whole bunch of people watching this video. Please say hello and where you're watching it from. Please, I need the live chats. I should try to get 9 unique ones today. Tough experience with good advice. Thank you, Mr. Byzantine Solution. Is Robert still traveling around Colombia, South America? Last I talked to him, which was a week or so ago, he was back in Medellin. He went to Mexico, spent some time there. He bebops around, but right now, last I heard, he's in Medellin. He'll make videos, then he won't for a while. He's very busy, so I don't talk to. When he was in the U.S., I talked to him a lot more. Olga, how are you? If you had to do it over again, would you still have your Social Security deposit directly to a Colombian bank, or is it best and safer to have direct deposit to Fidelity or Capital One debit card? Well, Capital One's having a problem because they went to not Visa, MasterCard, the other obscure one. What somebody tell me. And I've heard that's been a problem. I don't have any Capital One cards anymore. Would I do it again? I had to do it because of things that I was involved with. I had to do it. So now all that changed after the heart attack. But prior to the heart attack, the coffee business, needing to get a car for various reasons, those things, I had no choice but to do it if I were going to continue with what I was doing. Life interrupts and kind of changes things up. So hindsight doesn't really apply. I mean, I didn't know I was going to have a heart attack. I didn't know I was going to have to stop doing business because I couldn't physically do it anymore. I didn't know those things. Given the same set of circumstances, I would do it again. But keep in mind, I've had direct deposit now for 3 years out of the 9, maybe 4 years. And it's been flawless up until this moment. And it had nothing to do with the direct deposit itself. That was there. It had to do with the bank getting information that I was dead. And the confusion is reasonable. And the guy at Migration was kind enough to actually bring me, he could have just handed me the paper, brought me in, sat me down, and explained the details of what had happened. Now, I really appreciated that. And I was surprised, is there something else? Because he went out of his way with that little kindness. I'm thinking there must be some other reason. No, that was it. That was the only reason, to make sure that I understood what had happened, that everything was okay now. So, okay, cool. Discover card. Yeah, that's it. Yep. So I don't know how that is because, well, technically I still have a bank account there. And I still have a credit card with them. So I have a debit and a credit card. I just physically don't have them anymore and don't use them anymore. So they've actually expired, and I could send for new ones, but I don't use them, so I just haven't bothered. Okay, so would I do it again? Like I say, it's been flawless. There's been advantages. There are some real advantages to it. Once I had to go into the tax system, that's when it no longer mattered if I did banking here or not. And if you do there are certain things where you have to go into the tax system. And so that's really what triggered it for me. And I don't regret that at all. I didn't know I was going to have a heart attack, and it was very exciting opening a business and going through all the things that I did and learning so much about the coffee business. And I mean, I enjoyed that. I like learning, and it was it was fun to keep accumulating more and more knowledge about that and going around to the different farm. All that was just it's what life is about, right? I mean, I was living more of a life than being stuck here in the apartment. So I could have, I could still be doing the debit card, which would actually be problematic if you're sick. If you think about it, kind of hard to do debit cards sitting in your apartment or sitting in the hospital. Having money directly there and being able to manipulate it with your phone is pretty useful. Okay, I have explosive. Yeah, well, I feel for you. It's yeah, it's there. There's this medication I would love to not be have to take anymore, but I've been feeling better and better and better. I got to trust them because I'm not dead, contrary to popular opinion. Tried to use Capital One at Davivienda ATM and didn't know it, but it sent a text message from Capital One asking if it was me. I had left my cell phone at my apartment. So, yeah, that would suck. There's still the option of MasterCard and Discover. Oh, I didn't know that. I have several accounts with Capital One and all just got renewed as MasterCard. That's good to know. I hadn't pursued it because of the reason I told you. There's no reason for me to. But that's the first I've heard that. And that actually makes perfect sense. I was surprised because Capital One is not a small outfit. And it just didn't make sense to me, but I didn't know anything to really argue it. Um, okay, let's get to the headlines and get to my main topic. First one. El Nino has arrived in Colombia and alerts are being raised for droughts, extreme heat, and fires. I'm really getting sick of seeing this headline and then having rain every single day and cold. I mean, we're actually into the time where it shouldn't be raining that much. They've announced it's official now, but it's not here. So I don't know how it could be official if it's actually not happening. It's not to say it's not going to happen. It's just that for headline's sake, for the last 3 months, they're talking about El Nino and forest fires and things, and it's like, what are you talking about? So, future event, probably. I did look at international reports on it, and it does say that it should hit us sometime, maybe June, end of June, early July. Okay, makes sense. And it will run until probably November or December. Okay, got it. Uh, Fortunately, living in Quindío, it has very, very, very little effect unless you're a farmer. Of course, it'll make a difference there, but we have so much water, it's ridiculous. Okay. Happy day from Circassia. The good William, how are you? Problem with tea, gets cold fast. And I put a little too much honey. It's kind of sweet. And it was cheap honey because I haven't had any money, but I needed to so I get this little bottle and it was like, I don't know, 8,000, 6,000 pesos. And I was saying, that's crazy cheap, even for Colombia. So this morning, I took the seal off and opened it up, and it says pure honey on it. So I put it in the cup, and it comes out like water. what the hell? Yeah, pure honey and water. I mean, it looked like it'd been watered down, like it was a quarter of the viscosity it should have been. Anyway, Back on the headlines. Easily distracted. A detail on the car floor gave him away. This is how a man with a drug shipment was caught. Now, here's a guy that had 16 kilos of base cocaine, and he was caught at a road check between Armenia and Ibagué, and got out of the car. The cops will do this, and never bothers me. When I had the black, huge Ford Edge, there was never a road check that didn't stop me. And then when I got the little Suzuki SUV, there was never a road check that did stop me. It was awesome. But big black vehicle that looks expensive, even though it was a million years old, had darkened windows. It was. Anyway, they stopped this guy, and they noticed something was weird with the carpet. And just on a hunch, they decided to pull everything up. False floor built in, 16 kilos of cocaine. Crime doesn't pay. Flavors, coffee, and traditions. Farmers from Candillo will showcase the best of their produce this Sunday in Armenia at Plaza Bolivar. If you're living here, you want to go down Plaza Bolivar all day today. There's a farmer's market, but there's also a ton of stands. What do you call them? Everybody gets a spot. Anyway, there's all these stands of different kinds of foods. A lot of restaurants are putting up little stands with their, favorite food that they're selling. So it sounds pretty cool. So get down there. Another headline. President Gustavo Petro ordered suspended from office for alleged involvement in politics. Now, there's some federal law about a current president not being able to be involved in campaigns at this time of an election. And he's violated it. And so there's actually a committee that monitors these things, and they issued a decree stating that he's suspended as president until after the election, so he can do no harm. Except it doesn't gag him. So if he's not president, he's no longer subject to that law, hypothetically, and that he can then politic without any recourse. So I had to do some digging because it was a little confusing, and I find these things out. And it was only one person that signed that document out of a committee of 18. And so you got people saying it's not constitutional. The one person that signed it has a relationship with Petro. And so what all the social media, there's a social media that caught my eye. I see all this social media talking about how Petro tried to do some sleazy sleight of hand to trick people into feeling sorry for him to try to swing the vote towards his man's Cepeda's way. And I'm thinking, so I saw that. So I'm digging, I'm looking at this thing in a document, and I go to AI and I say, here's all this information. What do you make of it? Well, GPT, as usual, sat on the fence and could be this or that. So I go to Claude, and it said, well, it's a 90% chance that this was probably a political ploy to get sympathy. And so anyway, that headline, he's actually, the decree says he's suspended, but legally, he really isn't, because one person can't make that determination. So headlines are funny things. Unique experiences and boundless nature. Candillo wants to conquer Colombia with the largest selection of theme parks in the country. I didn't never really thought about this, but there is a shit ton of theme parks in Quindío. There's, if you count like Rakuka, the coffee farm, it's kind of a theme park. There's things that go on there. Panaka, the ballerinas. You have about 8 or 10 theme parks, more than any department in all of Colombia, and they're using it as a campaign. And it's going to go right through this fall about number one in theme parks. I don't know. Maybe that's good. So is that the last one? I think I covered them all. Got that one. Did that one. Yes. Yes. Okay. Covered all the headlines. Please say hello in the chat. Please. I don't want to get to the end of the month and have a problem. Please, please, please. All right. Topic. I found this humorous, but I went back and I reviewed all my notes that I had on it. And while it might have been ironic, I didn't find it humorous anymore. But my first take on it it kind of made me laugh. But I'm going to tell you the story. So as I mentioned, Colombia's in the World Cup for the first time in 8 years. I mean, the entire country has been losing its mind since the qualification, as you can imagine. If you're here, you've seen it. I mean, yellow jerseys everywhere. People who normally don't follow football suddenly are experts on it. And some of those people bought plane tickets. They flew to Mexico to watch Colombia's opening match in Guadalajara, or even for June 11th was the opening ceremonies in Mexico City. So you have a ton of Colombians who jumped on airplanes to go to Mexico. And Mexico has been turning them around at the airport. Now, I want to tell you this story because, as I said, it struck me as funny initially. It seems kind of absurd. But as I dug into it, it uncovered something I wasn't aware of. And it kind of connects directly to something every expat living here should understand about how Colombia is being perceived right now beyond its own borders. I mean, it's not just a sports story. It tells you something about Colombia's reputation in 2026, where it comes from and what it means. Colombia drew its first World Cup group match in Guadalajara. That's in Jalisco, Mexico. I've never been there. I'm told it's a beautiful city. It's the Akron Stadium is supposed to be really nice. Pictures look pretty nice. Has a capacity of almost 50,000 people. Now, Colombian fans did what Colombian fans do. They organized, got in groups, they bought tickets, they booked flights, looked for the group deals. They packed up the yellow shirts. And some of them, I guarantee, were probably on the airplane practicing their cheers. And when they landed in Mexico, Mexican immigration said, no thanks. Now, the reason was not because they had criminal records. It's not because they had fake documents. It was because Mexico, specifically the state of Jalisco, reported to a news agency that they were worried the Colombian cartel recruits were going to use the World Cup tourism as cover to enter the country. Now, as I was digging, I found in 2024, it wasn't the World Cup, but it was also for soccer. Back in 2024, Mexico turned away over 53,000 Colombians who went for a big soccer game. So it's not like this just happened. But a Jalisco security official said basically, this, as much of a quote as a translation can be, the people have come to be recruited by the cartels, and that Colombian ex-soldiers and former guerrillas have been joining organized crime groups in Mexico in growing numbers. I've reported many times about the connections. I had no idea that this migration to the cartels was occurring. I guess the pay's better. Mexican authorities said they had already turned back a bunch of Colombians who could not prove why they were there. Now, I looked at some photos of one of the stories, and the people they're ejecting, they were there in their yellow jerseys. Some of them were holding their tickets, and they had hotel reservations. So you would think that that would have proved why they were there, but it didn't matter. They were still rejected. Now, you want to be somewhat fair about this. I don't want to paint Mexico as just a total villain, because they've got some serious problems and they're trying to get a handle on it. And there's a real story here. Mexico has a problem. Guadalajara, as we all know, the city that's hosting Colombia's match, has one of the highest rates of disappeared persons and clandestine graves of any major city in Mexico. Jalisco is CJNG territory, the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. These are not small-time criminals. You've seen them in the news lately. They're one of the most violent organizations on the planet. And Mexico has, in recent years, documented a real trend. Colombian mercenaries, ex-soldiers, ex-guerrillas, being recruited by Mexican cartels to do work that Mexican sicarios apparently are not specialized enough to do. And a number of Colombians here in Colombia that are working for these Mexican cartels may get promotions to go there and do these things. These Colombians bring military training, tactical expertise, and in some cases, bomb-making technology. Now, authorities in Michoacan, somebody correct me, a department or a state, it's near Guadalajara. They actually dismantled a Colombian cell that were building explosion devices using internet-bought drones, turning them into combat drones, improvised bombs. So Mexico's concern is not completely invented. There are real Colombian hired guns operating inside Mexico. The problem is that Mexico's solution was to look at every Colombian at the border and say, you're one of them. Now, the answer for the vast majority is obviously no, they're not. They're football fans, but trying to prove a negative at an immigration counter when the officer has been told to watch for exactly your passport, that's a problem. Now, Mexico isn't the only part of the story, because Colombia's group how do I say this? Also includes matches in the United States. And getting into the United States with a Colombian passport right now has its own set of complications. Currently, the average wait time for a U.S. tourist visa interview in Colombia right now is 18 months. So if somebody here wants to go to a game in the United States, they've got to go to the embassy 18 months out in order to get an appointment in order to catch the game. Well, the World Cup started this week, and nobody knew 18 months ago if Colombia was going to be in it. And the visa backlog exists partly because you may remember when Petro was calling for a military coup when he visited in New York. He went to the UN and he went out on the street with all kinds of news coverage and called for the US military to overthrow Trump. Well, the administration was not very happy with that and put a block on a bunch of people's in government, in Petro's government, blocks on their visa. Not everybody, but they also suspended processing visas at the US Embassy in Bogota. Now, that only lasted about a week, and then it was pulled. It was reinstated. That was what, early this year, I think. So the suspension was temporary, but it created a backlog, and they're still working through that backlog, hence the 18 months out. So for Colombian fans hoping to follow their team through the full tournament, the United States portion is effective. It's a closed door. You can't apply your way in at this point. The fans who did try to get in through the U.S., well, there's another problem. The U.S. has decided to catch people that have illegally entered for these games. Apparently, they're camping ICE at the stadium checkpoints to go in. So Homeland Security said, if anybody's there illegally, they're going to catch them. Now, that's probably more preventative than anything else. If you announce it, you know. But some people, anything for soccer. So I have sympathy for what they're going through. On the other hand, what Petro did was pretty egregious. And had he not done that, they wouldn't have this backlog and it would be a whole different situation. So, I mean, they really only have one person to look at. You don't go to another country and announce on their national media for their government or for their military to overthrow the government. I mean, it's just kind of not cool. So anyway, there's I think 43 countries can get in without a visa, just like we can go places. But Colombia's not on that list. I don't know if it's ever been on that list. Now, it could get there. And we'll talk about that in a moment. Colombia here in 2026 is in a complicated position internationally. Inside this country, if you're living here, you see a version of it. It's beautiful, it's warm, it's increasingly developed. A place I chose to live the rest of my life. And it's all real. I mean, I'm here for a reason. But from the outside, if you're looking up from the border, particularly if you're looking from the eyes of a Mexican immigration official, Colombia's got a whole different look to it. There's a whole different opinion based on some real things. The cartel presence is real. I mean, the narco recruitment pipeline into Mexico, it's actually, discovered, it's well documented. And then you throw in history around the Colombian passport, that even if you're there just for a football game, there's problems. Now, that reputation doesn't affect my life here in Quindío in any obvious way, but it affects how Colombia gets treated in international spaces. It's not just Mexico or the United States. This is an issue in a lot of places in this world. Just as Venezuela was, as it was being a home for these cartels. So it affects everyday Colombians who are as innocent as you or me, who try to go to these places. It also tells you something about the presidency that's about to change. Yeah, I showed you the parade this morning. One of the arguments being made in this current election is that Colombia under Petro drifted into a territory that made it harder for the country to operate as a trusted partner in the region, not just the United States. He alienated most of the countries in Central and South America. There are only a few that stood behind him. And those few were Maduro, Venezuela, Cuba, Brazil. Everybody else having problems with Colombia. And so now Colombians are experiencing these problems at the border and at the visa offices. So whether you agree with the politics of this, it's a reality. And the proof of that reality is at these immigration locations, including Mexico now. They're turning away the fans. It's real. It's newspaper article. It's in social media. It's what caught my eye. And this 18-month visa wait currently is real. Now, that may be, I'm sure they're catching up to that, but right now for that game, that's the way it is. Now, one other aspect of this, the irony of it all. The opening ceremony of the World Cup, which was the 11th, featured Shakira. Shakira, born from Barranquilla, Colombia. And she's performing at the World Cup that Colombian fans are being told they can't go to. The country's greatest musical export ever was welcome. But the country's football fans are a security problem. Shakira got in, the guy in the yellow jersey with a foam number 1, he can't get in. So for expats living here, I want to be clear. None of this changes your daily life. Your residency, your visa status, your experience inside Colombia is not affected by what happened at the Mexican airport this week. But it's useful to remember that Colombia's international reputation is currently a work in progress. And it can go in one of two ways. And the country is genuinely changing. That you may be noticing. And the next administration, who we kind of know who's going to win, but whoever wins on June 21st will have a significant role in how fast that change happens and how the outside world responds to it. Somewhere in Guadalajara this week, a Colombian fan who got turned around at the border found a sports bar, ordered himself a beer, grouped up with 20 other Colombians, and they're going to watch their team on the big screen. And maybe that's fine. Maybe it's better. Maybe, they saved the travel money. I don't know. But that's what's going on. So that's, I wanted to tie those things in because there's a lot of interconnectivity. I don't know what you think about any of this. I appreciate any comments to let me know. I found this, like I said, I found the whole thing just a theater of the absurd. Just ridiculous. But it's pretty serious. And it's based on some real things. But the one that blew me away was almost the tail end of me digging through this. I find out that Shakira, after the fact, I just found that out, I think, yesterday, that she was actually playing at the opening ceremony. Okay. Chad, checking in super late. Make sure you go back, Chad. You want to watch the finishing of the story about how he became the undead. Statistical fact, Russian women and Colombian women have the hardest time getting visas. Could be. My ex-wife was from Colombia, got a visa. And in her case, it took a month. She got the appointment almost right away, like in a couple of weeks. And I think it took a month to get approved. But that was back, I think 2002, I think was when that happened. So currently, yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. They're least likely to return home staying beyond their visa dates. Yeah, they do track all that stuff, and that does matter. Someone else's problem made it where actual fans from enjoying life. That's absolutely true. And I didn't. This is another one of those things that when I'm reading about all this stuff, the connection. I mean, I reported here for years about the ties from the FARC and the Gulf cartel. I've told you for years the connection. They're essentially their boss. They've become franchises of the Mexican cartels, and so it never occurred to me that Colombians, with all the experience they gather here, are being recruited into Mexico. But it makes perfect sense. But it was a shock. I read it. It was a shock, and it's in as much as how did I not think about this? But it's not just a fact. It's well documented. I just never looked. Unless you have a financial sponsor, probably. Where am I here? I'm losing my. Probably some people choose different choice for their vote for the foreseeable future. I don't know how much all of this overall picture is being recognized by Colombians. I mean, I talk almost entirely with Colombians, people here in the building, security. I'll walk around the building. I'll walk down to the security post because you go stir crazy. I mean, I may have to avoid going out, but I'll do that, and I practice my Spanish and so we've talked about the election, we've talked about the World Cup, none of this stuff has ever come up. Like I say, it was a surprise. His dudeness abides. That name sounds familiar. Why do I know that? Hello from Pineda. Do you have any updates on your former co-hosts Dan and Mike Jarvis? Well, Dan's here, doing fine. Last I knew, he was moving within Armenia. I talked to him about a week ago. Mike and I, we communicate mostly by memes. We send memes back and forth. We find choice memes, and I'll send them to him. He'll send them to me. Every so often, he'll send me a picture of what's there. He likes to keep to himself a lot. We have a lot in common. Last I knew, he was enjoying himself there. I don't know. I'll see if I can get him on in the next few weeks. All my Colombian family easily got their U.S. visas. They're all highly educated and have great jobs. U.S. officials know they will return to Colombia. That's also part of it. Getting the appointment is currently the issue. However, if you have a track record, it makes a difference. If you're for the first time trying to go to Mexico or first time trying to go to Miami, you're going to get put at the end of the line. If you have a track record there's a lot of people in Colombia that go to the U.S. on a regular basis. They'll go there for business. They go there for vacations. They have no issue, but they also have 20 years of a background of doing that. So it's absolutely no problem for them. So, I appreciate you making that comment because that's absolutely true. And I know a bunch of people that fit that category. But it's first time without any kind of a track record. And particularly if you don't have strong ties here. I don't just mean a security job that you've had for, a year. People that have worked in a business for the last 15 years, for example. Maybe they have a house here. They got a car here. they're embedded into the culture, they're going to have an easier time. And I think Rigo mentioned about the financial sponsor. People that have a financial sponsor, somebody to stand up for them, which in my case, so I married her. Um, I had to sign an affidavit saying I would be responsible for her. And I'm sure that has a lot to do with why it was so easy and so quick for her to come in. Had she tried to do it on her own, I think it would have been a whole different story, right? Okay. So I have to say, I'm getting the chats from the usual people, which I'm very grateful for, because you guys know, I love you guys. But I have dozens and dozens and dozens of people that'll be watching that just won't go in chat. And you got to understand, it's my lifeblood. If I don't get those chats, when I sign off here in a few minutes, if I don't get a chat from a new person that hasn't put anything in the live chat within June, if I don't reach my number, my position in Rumble will be deleted again. And I can't afford it. And next time around, I've already done as much as I can with the subscriptions. Next time around, I will have to stop doing it. Now we may get a jump back in the exchange rate, which will help take some of the pressure off, because gas prices, I looked yesterday and they're down to $73 a barrel. So we're only $10 away from being back where it was. And that's part of the reason the exchange rate is gone crazy. There's always a lag, but it's plummeted because it's reacting to back when it was over $100 a barrel. And so it may be another week or two or so before it starts going back to what's comfortable for us. But it isn't everything is about oil. It's not all about oil. It has to do with the election, who gets elected, how much investments come in, what the inflation is, and the interest rates that the Colombian Treasury basically decides to place on savings. All of that goes into the formula of where that exchange rate is. And then you got the other side of the coin. You got the United States. If the dollar gets stronger, if certain things happen there, then you have all of these different pressures. But currently, the one that has most effect was back when the oil was over $100 a barrel. It's caught up with us, and that's the one that's hurting the most currently. All right, I think that's it. Any last call, last questions? I don't know what it's going to take. I beg, I plead. I can't get people to enter a live chat except for the ones who always do. And those are the ones that, for the most part, have been engaged in this channel for years. I don't know what else to do. I don't know how to solve this problem. I don't want this to end. I mean, being landlocked, it's something I look forward to every week. And if it's not there, good. I don't even want to think about that, because I am not a person who likes to be idle. And the research and the effort of what I do for this is part of the fuel that keeps me going. But if anybody's got a solution on how I can get live chats, please let me know. You guys that have been here for a long time have watched me beg for these things for the past 4 months, probably. It doesn't work. People do not respond. You can see it in the chat, because with an occasional rare circumstance, it's always the same people. Okay. I'm not trying to whine. I'm just trying to tell you that's how it is. So if this goes away after almost 10 years, it will be because I don't get any kind of live chats from a whole bunch of people that watch. Okay. And they watch, from the numbers, practically all of it. Every week. They're there. They're there. And I can't get them. I can't beg them into freaking live chat. All right. I guess that's it. I don't know what topic will be next week. I'm always open for suggestions. If you have any, feel free. How many viewers are lurking? Currently, right now, I've got 30 some. As I get to the end, they start fading away. So, of the people that have chatted today, we've probably had 10 people. So, 34. There was probably 40 to 50 people that could have easily dropped a live chat and who have never chatted before. But it's just how it goes. And I get it. I mean, they have no obligation to. And maybe they watch it, but don't really care if I'm here next month or not. You know, it's fair. So, you know, maybe I'm a little selfish about it. Oh, I still can't grow a beard. I mean, I got some fuzz there, but if you feel it, feels like it's very fine. It's not like here. This is like a Brillo pad. But all the new stuff. Anyway, I will see you later this week. Maybe I'll talk about my beard. Ciao.